So I just got done watching Andor Season 2 Episode 3 titled Harvest, and man, that was intense. I mean, don't get me wrong, I expected something a little explosive after the pressure that had been building in episodes 1 and 2, but some of the stuff here still really caught me off guard. Yes, in terms of plot and character, but also the way certain moments, especially that entire ending sequence, were portrayed through the editing and music choices. Just fascinating to watch, if not a little traumatizing. But before getting into any of that, let's first discuss what was probably the most tame scene of the episode. I am of course talking about the most adorable fascist couple I've ever seen and their very intriguing domestic life. Now, in yesterday's review, I was wondering what exactly the dynamic between Cyril and Dedra is. And here we do begin to get some answers. Like, for example, I'm still not exactly sure who does the cooking in this relationship, but Cyril is clearly the guy who chops the food, which is interesting because I wouldn't actually think Dedra would allow him to carry knives in the house. But no, this is interesting. We're learning more about this crazy couple, and man, this entire dinner scene with Cyril's mother was so equally funny and off-putting. From Dedra practicing her fake smile in the mirror, to Cyril's mother absolutely nuking Cyril's self-esteem over appetizers, to Dedra putting Cyril's mother in her place. It was brilliant to watch, not only because we know and have grown with these characters, but also just because, I don't know man, it's so interesting to watch the banal day-to-day lives of comparatively normal people living in the Star Wars universe. Like, think about it. This entire silly domestic power struggle is happening while the Emperor is out there building a planet-killing superweapon and electrocuting puppies or whatever. And here we are watching two weirdos and a chain-smoking mother passive-aggressively battle it out over dinner. It's such a small, petty thing in the grand scheme of the galaxy, but that's what makes it so fascinating. Andor never forgets that big, evil systems are propped up by small, miserable lives just like this. Anyway, speaking of mothers and passive aggression and misery, we also check back in with Mon Mothma in this episode, who is still in the midst of what can only be described as a never-ending nightmare of culture and conformity and fakery. Like, honestly, I would not last 5 minutes on Chandrila. I genuinely think I'd have more fun living on Mustafar. But anyway, Mon's still clinging on to this tiny shred of hope that she can somehow pull her daughter back, that maybe at the last second she'll see through all this ceremonial nonsense, realised how messed up it all is, and together they can #escape the culture. But of course that doesn't happen. Instead we get this brutal little moment where Leader basically tells Mon she wishes that she was drunk, I guess because she'd be more fun, or whatever. It's so cold, so cutting, and the way Mon just takes it, the way she absorbs the hit, it's honestly a bit heartbreaking. It's also heavily implied in this episode that Luthen has pretty much signed Tay Kolma's death warrant, and honestly, it was kind of chilling just how casually this was handled. There was no big conversation, no angry confrontation, just a quiet understanding that Tay has become a liability. He's panicking, he's trying to blackmail/bribe Mon Mothma, and that moment he's picked up by Cinta Kaz, who is of course part of the Aldani heist crew from the last season. It was quite powerful, like just really quietly menacing. But the real gut punch of this episode takes place on Mina Rao, with Bix and Brazo and the others. Now there's a certain moment here which has been spoken about a ton online, which is when the slimy Imperial officer from the previous episode corners Bix, tells her he knows she's undocumented, and basically implies that if she sleeps with him, he'll let it slide. And when Bix says no, he just straight up assaults her. Now, let's just get this out of the way. Obviously this was a really difficult scene to watch, but it was also kind of mind-blowing from a meta perspective that something like this would actually appear in a Star Wars show. Now personally, I didn't mind this scene. Andor is very dedicated to showing and deconstructing evil and power, and unfortunately this is a thing which happens in the real world. But man, I never in 1,000 years actually thought they would say the R word out loud. Like, I'm not being funny, but this is the same franchise with Ewoks and Jar Jar Binks, and now we have this. I just find that concept fascinating, and obviously the scene itself was very well acted, and overall I think it hit as hard as the writers intended. But I also understand that if some parents were watching this with their kids, they'd maybe be a bit shocked and want to send a letter of complaint to Tony Gilroy. But yeah, at the end of the day, Andor has always been advertised as Star Wars for adults, and this was probably the most adult thing we've seen in the franchise ever. Who knows though, we still have 9 episodes to go, so let's see what happens. But anyway, this episode ends in really memorable fashion, actually. We get this incredible final sequence where 2 of the major storylines, Cassian's return to Mina Rao and Mon Mothma's unraveling on Chandrila, completely fall apart side by side. Cassian finally makes it back, flying in like he's going to save everyone, but of course it's already too late. He finds Brazo's body, who had died off screen, which actually sucks. Brazo was such a great character, really nice and loyal guy who you sort of always felt a little safer around whenever he was on screen. And the way it's all cut together with what I think is now a tipsy Mon Mothma spinning herself into oblivion at her daughter's wedding, surrounded by people who have no idea she's breaking apart inside, it's brutal stuff. The weird space EDM is pounding, the lights are flashing, and you're just stuck watching these 2 completely different people realize, almost simultaneously, that everything they were trying to hold on to is slipping away. It's not neat, it's not cathartic, it just hurts. It's the kind of really well done scene which Andor does best. It's not glamorizing rebellion, no, it's showing you the cost in these small, ugly but oddly tender moments. Overall, Harvest was brutal, but it was also the best episode of season 2 so far, at least in my opinion. It's the first real payoff for all the slow burn tension that's been building over the past 2 episodes, and even though it wasn't exactly a feel-good kind of payoff, it was exactly what the story needed. Honestly, I think I preferred this opening chapter to the first chapter of season 1. It just feels sharper, more confident, like they know exactly what kind of show they're making now. And if this is just the opening act, I honestly can't wait to see what the main bulk of the season has in store. I will be back to review chapter 2 of Andor season 2 in a few days, 1 episode at a time, but until then, I hope you have a great day and I will see you in the next one.